Hi there and welcome to Hearthside. My name is Michelle. I am the author on this blog. I've been working on compiling all of my old entries as YouTube videos for accessibility reasons. Unfortunately, it is August and I've got into all the Yule videos and I'm trying to put myself in that headspace, but it is a challenge at the moment, so just bear with me a little bit on that. This one's just a really short one entitled Modern Yule and Solstice Traditions. In particular, in this one, I was talking about modern solstice traditions in contrast with the historical midwinter Yule celebrations. So historically, midwinter or Yule would have been celebrated in accordance to the lunisolar calendar. So most often the midwinter moon would have been in January. But of course, as you know, lunar cycles move around a bit, so it could have been as early as the end of December or into the beginning of February, just depending on the year. So Yule traditions were moved after the introduction of Christianity to fall around Christmas time, and this influenced pagan practices to eventually get practiced around the solstice date instead of following the lunar cycle. In modern times, many heathens celebrate midwinter at the solstice. That is not my personal tradition. But I do recognize the solstice as an important date in the heathen calendar, as the reckoning for the lunisolar calendar relies on the fixed dates of solstices and equinoxes in order to determine which moon it is and keep it somewhat fixed so it doesn't cycle around the year like a true lunar calendar would. I'm not sure if you know what that means exactly, but basically if there aren't fixed dates in the calendar, then eventually, over time, the Yule date would end up being in the summer instead of in the winter, and so on and so on. It will go around in a circle like that until it was back roughly when it is now. So, to me, I see Yule as, although there is like the fixed date for the midwinter celebrations in January around the moon, usually seen as a 3-day period around that moon, Yule is more than just that date, but rather a season of celebration, which for me would start in the Yule month, which would be December, and continue into the midwinter month, which is January. And lots of different festivities would happen over that period of time. So if you're thinking about that time of year, you're thinking of the wild hunt, shrieking through the skies, frost and snow settling everywhere, and the dark period extending over everything. So a lot of looking inwards, being with family and community, and like trying to raise spirits to stave away the dark time. So the urge is for us naturally to retreat from the busyness of the rest of the year, slow down the pace, and enjoy the warmth of the hearth and home. But quite often when we're celebrating modern solstice day, we would be thinking about spending the daytime outside, hailing Sol, and knowing that the light will be returning soon. So for me and my tradition, I would consider the date that marks the returning of the sun to be the Yule date, which I would celebrate on the full moon in January. And the reason for that is, historically, if you're looking at it, depending on how far north people were, they actually had full darkness for at least a month each year, and the Yule date actually marked about the period of time in which the sun would start to actually appear again. So up until that time, it was complete night for an extended period, and it was cold and dangerous to be outside. As for me, in modern traditions, I do also celebrate the solstice in my own hearth practice. I do this by going out at sunrise and meeting the sun, which is similar to a Nordic tradition that occurs in January. I think it's around the 14th or 15th, where people go up onto the mountain to greet the first day that the sun returns. Now, obviously, I live a little bit farther south where I am, so we don't actually have any full days of darkness, especially since there's no mountains here. But it's the same sort of tradition, just at a slightly different date, because I recognize the importance of that, and then I recognize the importance of Yule in our own heathen traditions, and celebrate that with my tribe in January. So there's a lot of speculation about this time of year about what exactly was done to celebrate Yule. We know, like, there was drinking and things like that. There was fires. But which gods would be celebrated? The logical choice seems like potentially Sol. Although I've heard Baldur as well. And then just how would they have been celebrated? What would that bloat have looked like? There's not a lot of information out there that in detail describes that. So some of it is bringing in our own practices and using our best judgment. And I think that an important aspect for my own practice is, even though I don't have that extended period of darkness like some of the Nordic people do and did in the heathen times as well historically, for me, December is the beginning of winter in some ways, insofar as that January and February are actually the colder months here. So we're not over the dangers of the winter by the solstice time, and we still have a long time that we need to hold out against that darkness and that coldness in order to survive it. So really, Yule isn't the celebration of the end of the winter, even the midwinter celebration. It's the celebration of the hope that we have reached the halfway point, basically, and that winter will end and that we will survive it. If you're looking at celebrating the end of winter, then that actually is going to be Sigurblot, the beginning of summer celebration. So yeah, just some food for thought. That this was just, a pretty simple post. I expand a little bit more in Yule in another post that I'm coming up to quite quickly here. And I hope that you stick around and check that one out as well. Alright, thanks and see you soon.